What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Totally Naked. If this is your first time with us, let me let you know who we are. We are a bunch of young Christians whose mission is to transform and uplift the kingdom of God by tackling everyday issues with Christian solutions. I am your girl, Dominique, and I have with me my wonderful co-host, April T. Lee and Jax. Woo! What's up,
What's going
everybody?
on?
What's up? What's up? Now,
Hey,
if
what's going
you
on?
have been,
Hey,
what's up? What's up? If y'all have been rocking with us over the last 3 weeks, you know we've been talking all things money, money, money. Okay, and today it's not no different. Today it's no different. We have a special guest that's here to help wrap up our series. So, as you know, we've already discussed so far the poverty mindset, different ways to fatten thou purse, and
right.
how to budget, work, know how to manage that credit, and also potentially get some real estate, right? But now we're going to wrap that up in a nice, pretty bow and really talk about something that is not easily talked about, and that is our legacy estate planning. And to help us have that conversation, I'm going to bring in our special guest, Mr. Marlon Conaway. Welcome to the show.
All right, all
Woo!
right. I appreciate you having me on, guys. Good morning.
Yes, welcome.
Marlon.
Yes, Marlon is the owner and founder of Legacy Builder 904 Consulting, which is your all-in-one stop financial shop where you can discuss your legacy estate planning as well as what you need while you're still here with us. And we'll go into a little bit more about what services and things offers later on in the show. So stick in there with us. Now, before we get really deep into this conversation, did y'all see Coming to America too? Did y'all see Coming to America too? Because let me
I
tell you,
did.
I did too. Not only did I think it was good, and I'm gonna say, people was hating on it, but not only did
They
I
were.
think that it was good, I thought it was right on time for what we're talking about today. Because what's his name? King Jati Jofer?
Mm-hmm.
King,
King
he
Joffrey
was
Duffer.
so prepared.
King.
The king. The king was so prepared, honey. He was already in the casket before he had already had the whole funeral. He was in the casket. He was doing the countdown 10, 9, 8, 7, 6 to the croak time. Listen, he was so prepared. He was
He
so
was so
ready to the
ready.
point where he even went out there and found the heir to the throne before he left on out of there. Okay, as if his son wasn't good enough. All I'm saying is King Joffrey Jaffa was teaching us something. He was teaching us the importance
Right.
of leaving a legacy, planning for when we are no longer here. So, I mean,
Right.
whew, that's a tough conversation. That's a tough conversation.
And I just loved his face. I loved his face when he was in that casket. It was like, yes, this is everything that I would have hoped for.
Yes, he was
He
like,
knew.
yes.
He knew
He was
it was
like,
gonna be
tell
a
me how
bomb
much you're
party.
going to miss me. Let me see how much you're going to cry for me. But the point is, right, that he was prepared. He was ready. And he wasn't afraid
Right.
of what was in the unknown. Because what he did know was that when he was gone, that he was going to have to still take care of his family, even when he wasn't there. And the best way that he could take care of his family is via estate planning. So that takes us
Right.
into our first question that we have for our guest today. And we really want to know, why is legacy or leaving legacy for your children so important, Marlon? Why is that important for us, especially in the African American community?
I mean, first of all, it's biblical, right?
Yeah.
The Bible talk about leaving an inheritance for our children. All right, it says a good man. Now, if you're not a good man, then that's a different story. But I think we prepare for our children in all type of ways. I mean, we go out of town, we make sure they have a babysitter, right? We make sure they got the best education possible, the best health care possible. And so, we're doing all our life. I believe that it's important to make sure that all the things that we acquire, as adults, and our properties and our retirements and 401ks and insurance policies, we got to make sure we have things in order. So that stuff is not floating in the wind, right? I mean, if you look at just life insurance alone, there's over like $7 billion of unclaimed life insurance assets. Unclaimed. So these are people who paid premiums all their life.
Wow.
They passed away. Either the beneficiaries couldn't be found, they didn't update beneficiaries. So that's the most important thing, all right? Because to make sure that the right people inherit the assets that you work so hard to accumulate. Right. But it's a very, very important matter, I believe. And one of the things we do is try to do the best job possible to help people understand the process, and it's not as scary as it thinks. And I think the way we do that is not only talking about their future, but also their present. All right. We want to build the best lives possible while we're here, but we also want to make sure when we go that everything that we build goes into the right hands.
Right. I agree with that. Right. And another thing that you mentioned, well, not another thing, but to piggyback off what you mentioned, it is biblical, right? God calls us to leave a legacy for our children, to leave a legacy that can help to further build the kingdom of God. That's just the bottom line. So it's not wise for us to just say, when I'm gone, I'm gone. Yeah, you unfortunately have transitioned from your family, but your family still has the everyday realistic things to deal with, the bills, how are we going to take care of that and those type of things. So I agree. It is so important to do that, because we don't take care of our family when we don't.
I would definitely agree with you. The only thing is, legacy is definitely the tangible things, but it's also the intangible things that you bring as well. That's the number one thing. And then number two, I think it's important and necessary, because we have and not to stay on African American, but the way that you set up the next generation for success, financial success, is to make sure that things are left in order for them. Well, number one, things are left for them, but then things are left in order for them, because things need to be decently done decently and in order. But you have to make sure that you're leaving something of value, number one, and then number two, because that's the only way that they're going to start ahead of where you were. Does that make sense? Like we have right now we have this perpetual thing of people starting behind because when we pass, we don't have anything in order. So now they have the debts that we have instead of the assets, and you being able to push those things forward,
Right.
Yes, absolutely.
I can say from my own personal experience, I actually just recently, it was like maybe in just this month, in probably 4 years, where I had to bury my father. He was the first parent that I was responsible for having to actually be in charge of making sure that his affairs were ordered after he passed away. And my dad, I appreciate him for this. It was some tough conversation, and we could be just kicking it at the house. Like he could be drinking beer, watching a game, but he would be like, April, I have this policy here, and it's in and it wasn't like something that was wrapped up in like this nice file or accordion file or anything like that. It was just like, this is what I got, this is what I want, and it's here under my in my cabinet here. And and when I tell you, like, it wasn't necessarily like it was like all prestige, but it was so helpful during a transition time where it was tough. Like, it's tough to lose a family member. It's tough to lose a parent. It's tough to lose a child. When you have to deal with just the stress of dealing with the loss of that family member, the headache that comes with having to also have to bury them and not have the financial resources to do it, or you don't know where to start because no one ever talked about it. Like it was an easier transition. Not that it was not difficult, but when it came to the management of his end of life affairs, my dad, you know, I am grateful to him for that, because that's a gift. Like, I don't know if, you know, like, I know there's a lot of millennials that watch our show, you know, but, you know, like, we may not be talking about jerk death per se right now. But if you have parents and things like that, like, those conversations may be tough, but, and I like would shy away from it sometimes. I was like in my 20s when he started doing that. And it's like, okay, daddy, you're gonna live forever. Daddy, you're gone, you know. But he was like, look, I'm not gonna live forever. And I think that sometimes, you know, because God has given us this eternity in our hearts, that we do walk around thinking that we're gonna be here forever. But, you know, we are all born with a birth date, which we cannot control.
Right.
And then we also have an end date, which is our death date, which we
Right.
don't control. We all have this cycle of life. It's a part of it. What we do in between is what we have the most control over. But at the end of the day, you know, you want to be able to talk about a part of life before you get to the end. And like, and I was grateful to him because it was a gift, because I did not have to stress out as much about the plans of what to do, because we had those conversations. And so I think that that's another reason why you want to be able to leave legacy, so that you're not stressing out your children or the people that you leave behind, or spouse, you know, in a time where it's already tough. Like, I already got to deal with your loss, and now I got to deal with
Right.
the fact that I don't know how I'm gonna bury you.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is tough. I mean, personally, I've also gone through a similar situation where my father passed, and we had to, you know, really count on community and really, you know, bring our resources together to be able to bury him. And that was a very stressful situation. And I, you know, I often wondered, you know, during that time specifically, you know, why didn't you guys have, you know, I would, you know, in my grief, and, you know, you get frustrated, but those hard questions I started asking, why didn't you guys ever talk about this? Why weren't you guys somewhat maybe halfway almost there to, you know, talk, planning or having things in order, you know, for the time that you may not be with us any longer? So my question to you, Marlon, is what are some common barriers that you've seen with end of life planning?
You say barriers?
Yes.
I mean, I wouldn't call them barriers, but I would just say we would basically, I see some of the biggest things that people need to understand is, number one, that things like life insurance is not a right. It's something that you have to acquire and qualify for. One of the things I see sometimes is people wait too late, right? Where they're not medically qualified, or they're too old where the price is right. Okay. You know, so things like habits, whether you smoke or a non-smoker, your height and weight could play a factor. Your health could play a factor. Your age. Okay. So all those things play a factor in price. And see, all of us on this call today, we're the youngest we're ever going to be right now. Right. Next year we're higher age, so it's going to cost more. All right. So one of the things I always tell people, if there is a need, you have people that rely on you, people that depend on you, your income for their quality of life, particularly, you know, parents that have children, or maybe children that are taking care of parents, because we're in that sandwich generation now where a lot of us still have children at home, but you know, mom is 65, 66, 67. You know, and we're helping her out as well. Okay. Right. So we have dependents, people that need us, you know, it's very, very important. And so one of the things I think I'll say some mistakes I would say is either too little or no coverage. Some people have, you know, of course, insurance through the job. It's a job benefit. One thing I always try to get my clients to understand is that jobs can give benefits. They can also take benefits away. Pensions used to be a benefit that almost everybody got. Nowadays, mostly nobody has them, right? You know what I'm saying? So that's a benefit that was taken. So look at life insurance through the job as a blessing. Look at it as icing on the cake. But I believe you should own your own cake because most of us change jobs so frequently, right? That sometimes you can be in a position where you have a job that may not have group life insurance, or maybe the group life insurance coverage is too little, right? I totally believe that when you look at life insurance, you should probably have enough to be able to pay your home off, because the family still has to have somewhere to stay, especially if you have children or a spouse. You need to have enough to pay your debts off, so the family's not struggling, still trying to pay the car notes. They still need transportation to work and school, right? You need to, possibly leave your children an inheritance if that's something that's important to you. And your funeral costs. I think too many times we focus so much on the funeral, but if you look at the price tag on a mortgage, debt, our kids' inheritance or college, and the funeral is the smallest thing, right? So if you're just buying a policy to cover a funeral, I call them burial policies, then the family's not going to benefit off that anyway, other than not having to go fund you. Meaning, if I had a $25,000 policy right now, of course the insurance company is going to profit because I have to pay my premiums to them all my life, right? The funeral home company is going to profit because when I pass away, they got to take that check to the funeral home company.
Mm-hmm.
If I only have 20, 25 grand, 15 grand, there's nothing much left over for mom and the babies to move forward. Right. So that's a situation of too little coverage. Okay. So that's a big mistake I see a lot of times, is just not knowing how much they need. And, we have a process where we walk them through to determine, write down how much it is to pay your house, your debts that you owe, right? How much we're going to leave each child, right? How much you think your funeral costs based on the relationships you have in your community or past experience. Like y'all can talk about experience because you went through burying a loved one, what it costs, right? Okay. And so they write those things down. You add up, that's roughly about how much you need. All right. Now we just got to do is make sure that we can get that to you at a price you can afford. Other thing I see outside of, waiting too late to the point where you can't qualify, or getting too little or no insurance, is making sure, like y'all mentioned, communication. Part of that is making sure your beneficiaries know they're beneficiaries, right? And keeping it updated, right? If April was married and she had a policy and her husband was the beneficiary, she's now divorced and remarried again, I would hate to be the bearer of bad news to the new husband to say, guess what? You ain't the beneficiary, right? He never updated her stuff, right? Okay. Right. So he got to show up to the funeral and fight the old husband, right? That happens, terrible. Right. So people do fight over money, right? That does happen. And another thing too, I'll say the last one, especially dealing with, you mentioned millennials. I bought my first policy. I had no family, no children, no spouse, and I bought it with the mindset of, when I was young, my parents took care of me. All right. So think of a single guy, 28, 30 years old, no children, no spouse. Why do I need life insurance? When I'm young, my parents took care of me. Well, when they get old, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to have to take care of them in some form or fashion, whether it's taking them to doctor's appointments, helping them with medication, going around cutting the grass every now and then, help upkeep of the house. Well, my thought process was, if I'm not physically here to do that, I want to make sure if I died before them that I left money, right? So they can pay somebody to do that. Does that make sense? They still gonna need it done, right? If I'm not here to do it, they still gonna need it done. And people don't work for free for the most part, right?
Sure,
the landscape guy gonna want his $50 every 2 weeks, right? The plumber that comes to fix the pipes, he's gonna want to get paid. And so that was my thought process as a millennial. We didn't use those words back then when I was 28. I'm about to be 49. So back then we didn't know what a millennial was. But that was my thought process at that age. Hey, I don't have a family. I don't have children. Why do I need life insurance? Oh, my parents. Just in case I'm not here when it's time for me to take care of them, I'm going to leave money. Does that make sense? So that's a few things that a few of the conversations, most likely, and also communication, like you mentioned. Back in the day, somebody passed away. We got to tear up the house looking for big mama policies just to find that $5,000, right? Okay, the burial, all right. Well, nowadays people are now online. They policies stuck in the email. Right. And so we don't have communication to know where our documents are. We were like, well, if Mama have insurance, I don't know. We tore up the house. We don't see no documents, no paperwork. Her stuff is online. She was logging into her credential through her client portal, right or wrong, which we don't have the password to. And so it's very important to communicate like April's dad did. Say, hey, this is what I have. This is who you call if something happened to me. Right. So you know exactly what to do. Does that make sense? Okay. Yes. And so those are just some things, right?
One of the things you said that stuck out to me, like I didn't even, like we don't think about that there's been a shift from paper, to the virtual world. So like that was like a light bulb for me, as well. It's like, you may have your affairs in order, but to realize like, okay, do they know that what your password is to get in your email? Right. Have you forwarded that information over to them? Because, for that virtual copy of that information, and or printing it out so that you can still maybe have a tangible, because we do have a lot of, where paperless type of situations with our, our financial pictures, like things with the bank and things like that too. That's another thing. I know we're talking about life insurance, but bank accounts and savings accounts, or if you got your stocks, like, that is also money that can be left on the table. Would you say $7 billion left on the table on claims? And so then where does that stuff go? So, like, I think that is one of those conversations where you sit down, you have to go and have these conversations with your bankers and saying, hey, this person is going to be on here. This is who this person is designated. But like Mama said, to also be able to communicate that to your family members so that they know this is how you get into this these accounts. Right. This is who you need to contact. They may not even know who you bank with because they may not be around. But I think that stuff is just invaluable, but like that's just, that's when you got your stuff together. What about the people who haven't even, it's like seems too much to think about it. Like, I don't have enough money to cover my basic bills. You talk about like having insurance and adding that to another, an added bill. I think that like that's a barrier. A barrier is, I have so many other expenses. And I'm just trying to scratch and survive. And I'm just trying to get day by day, live. So then it's tough for me, the money to be able to take care of the end of life things. I think that's a barrier.
I'm sorry, A, you were kind of breaking up towards the end of your explanation, so we didn't catch the tail end of that, so I'm sorry about that. But I do agree with you that when you feel like you don't have enough, you feel like you can't make a way to pay for other things that are important, like a life insurance policy. And you said something else too, Marlon, that I felt was,
you're not thinking about the end of life, you're just trying to live.
Right, exactly. And then another thing that I ran into personally was I didn't think that I had anything to leave. So, for example, you made a mention of the work insurance. So I did definitely have my work life insurance policy, definitely had the 401k. And I'm like, my beneficiary is going to be my son and my mom, possibly if I go before one of them. Right. So, but a friend of mine, she came to me because she lost her mom. And she came to me and she said, Dominique, I really think that you need to consider your living will, creating things like a living will, which is still a part of estate planning. And I didn't know anything about a living will. I didn't even know that it existed. When I associated the word will, I associated to my wishes after I'm deceased, right? So I never even knew that these things existed, but she brought to my mind, she said, but Dominique, what if you get sick? What if you get really sick and you have to go into the hospital or something? No, you haven't left us here, but who's going to be responsible for your son? Who's going to be responsible to take care of certain things while you are incapacitated, essentially? And that is a part of estate planning. And because I felt like I didn't have anything to bring to the table, I was shortening myself. I was cutting myself off at the knees as far as properly planning, properly setting up those protections. So I think that lack of knowledge or just that feeling of you don't have anything to move forward is barriers as well, personally. At least one that I faced. Yeah.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I agree with that. And one thing that he said was making sure that your beneficiaries, geez, I can't even speak today. Your beneficiaries know that they are beneficiaries and they have access to you. I know that resonated with April as well, but that is extremely important. Just to make sure that everybody is in the know of, hey, what I'm supposed to look out for something if you pass. And speaking from a son's perspective who has lost his mom, it is very complicated if you've never been through that process before, and all of a sudden somebody's passed and they need to be buried like in a week, and it's like in 7 days I need to know all this stuff or get all this stuff. It can be a little overwhelming. It is a little easier for me to talk about death than I guess most people, because my wishes are very simple. I already told them that, you know, if you spend $1,000 on my funeral, you spend way too much. But that's a personal goal. It's a personal
$1,000. You can't do nothing with. They can't even burn you for $1,000.
Correct.
No, but now I'm just saying it's about to go up. $1,000 ain't gonna be enough. It's gonna be $1,500 to burn you in a minute. You better up that money.
But the bottom line is, I just personally think that the funds that are left can be more fruitful in other areas than putting me in something that costs $10,000 that you're gonna see for 2 hours and bury it. Personally, it's just a personal take. Other people might feel differently. Like how she was talking about King Joffrey and the things and all that stuff. I'm like, great, that's not for me. Burn me up, put me in a can or something. I don't even care. Have a picture of me. Come say nice words for about an hour and go on about your life. It should not be a big situation.
Well, I mean, at least, but the important part though is about what you're saying, Jax, is that you are at least telling them what you expect and what you want, right? And I think that's the most important part, regardless of whatever it is. I've had conversations with my loved ones. My grandma shares the same sentiment. You know, just put me nicely down in the ground. You ain't got to spend no $20,000 on no casket, right? It's the same principle, but the important part is having the conversation.
Correct.
And even if they respond the way that April said that she responded to her dad, like, Dad, you're gonna be here forever. Because the truth of the matter is, I even respond that way to my grandmother, for example, and my mom. You know, I say, like, you're gonna be here forever, you know, just to kind of lighten the mood. But the fact of the matter is that the conversation is necessary.
Right.
So think of some tips that you could do. Or start writing down your passwords. You know, put it in a book and leave it in the house safe or somewhere accessible that people could find it. Right. This is the time that we can start putting words of power and really start doing little things that can change our lives. Even if, like to April's point, you may not have today the money to really start putting aside every single month. But if you checked out our budgeting episode, you would see different ways that you can save a couple of dollars, even if it's $10 or $20 that you could put to the side. You can do that to be able to plan for your estate, you know, planning. You can do things like we just said, put passwords and things in a location that is still secure, but is easily accessible from the ones who would need, you know, by the ones who would need to access it in the time of emergencies. Doing things like sitting down and just thinking about, what do I actually have? What will actually be the reality of my family's situation if something unfortunately was to happen to me? These are all applicable things we can do right now that you don't need no money for, that you don't need any additional assistance for. So, you know, I just want to encourage you guys and implore you guys to really not sit on this. This is so important. And if we haven't learned anything from the pandemic that we experienced, that we're still in today, but really went through in 2020, is that tomorrow is not a promise to us. Right. No matter your age, no matter whether you have an underlying condition or not, right? Tomorrow is not promised for any of us. And we don't want to be leaving our family unprepared. Yes, unprepared. Marlon. I'm sorry. Marlon. Yeah, go ahead.
Question for Marlon. Like, so I know that, okay, so I talked about the side where my dad had things situated. It's like the rich dad, poor dad type of thing. But it's not that. It's not that. But like, there are people, you have the flip side where it may be a tougher conversation to have with a parent because they feel like you trying to bury them. When you bring up the conversation about end of life. Do you have any suggestions to our listeners or viewers who may be in a situation where it is tough talking about these things because the family members make it tough? Like, they don't want to talk about it or bring it up at all.
No, I don't have any suggestions. Right? I mean, we got to put our grown folks. We got to put our. I was going to say something else, but I didn't want to say it. I told y'all may have to mute some of the stuff that come out of my mouth. Hey, you got to put the big draws on. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. You got to put the big draws on. That's it. And we got to have those conversations, man. My dad always tell me, my family name is Primo. Every time he see me, Primo, when I leave here, make sure your mama pay the house off. That's all he's concerned with. Okay, so we have those conversations, and we know exactly what his major concern is. You know, and that's important. I want to kind of touch on a couple of things. I think April talked about affordability. I think most people who work full time, draw full time income, could really afford to have their whole financial house in order. Just a matter of sitting down with a professional that can help you map out that situation. I think one of the biggest issues, particularly with wealth building and legacy building, is we seek counsel in all aspects of our life. All right, we seek counsel in, if you ask a person, who's your spiritual counselor, they can tell you who their pastor is. They got them on speed dial on the phone. Who's your healthcare counselor? They can tell you who their primary care physician or their specialist is. They can tell you what school he went to, right? Numbers in the phone. Who's your legal advisor? They can tell you who their attorney is, or if they needed legal counsel, they can tell you who they would go to if they needed an attorney. But if you think about it, we spend majority of our life working. Most people spend 40, 50, 60 hours a week working, right? And we're working for what? Money, right? Working for a paycheck, working for wealth, right? Okay. And the challenge is the thing that we spend most of our time chasing, we don't have counsel. We don't have mentorship, right? Wow. Now, we don't go to church 40, 50, 60 hours a week. We don't go to the doctor's office 40, 50, 60 hours a week. We don't talk to the attorneys 40, 50, 60 hours a week or need legal counsel that often, okay? But the thing that we spend the most time on in our life, we have no financial advisor. And so that's the first problem, okay? And so one of the things that we try to do through Legacy Group, one of the things that we actually do is we really focus on assets and liabilities. All right. The reason a person can't afford it, they got too much on the liability side. Okay. So let's go in and figure out how we can reduce those things. Right. Our generation, we got a lot of student loan debt, credit card debt. Right. Okay. We got big mortgage. Look at housing costs right now. Right. As a licensed realtor, I'm looking at the difference between the housing costs from now versus a year ago. Right. I mean, everything is inflated. So we got a lot of debt. We have we got high taxes. We pay ordinary income tax and everything. We spend probably this many premiums a month in the insurance industry alone, right? If you think about insurance, just insurance, period, right? Anybody got a corporate job? All right, so let's start there. At your corporate job, you got things like health insurance come out, dental, vision, short-term, long-term, critical illness, cancer policy, right? Right. I got prepaid legal, right? Right. I come home, I got homeowners, auto, additional life insurance. I got insurance on my cell phone. I got extended warranty on my car and extended warranty on the house. I'm already out of fingers, and we wonder why we got no money, right? So in life insurance category alone, we're sending out either 10 to 15 direct deposits or payroll deduction just going to one industry. Most people can't tell you what they got coverage. They can't tell you how it works. They can't tell you how much they pay without looking at a state, right? Okay, and then you got mortgage. All right. So one of the things we do, we look at all those areas, the liabilities column, say, hey, what areas can we free up? Shrink down to free up money to build wealth, right? Part of it is also budgeting, all right? Because we all get a plastic card that has either a Visa or MasterCard logo on there, and we swipe that thing freely. And the closer we get to payday, the more we swipe. We'll swipe, because we know tomorrow, Friday, it's going to be another deposit. I'm back in the game, right or wrong. So,
that's true.
Okay, but then we also got to build assets up, and so like life insurance is just one of the many assets. I like to call them the 4 money houses of the wealthy. Wealthy people, no matter how they make their money, I don't care if they're athlete, entertainer, a politician, whatever, business person, a wealthy person, I'm not talking rich, I'm talking wealthy. A wealthy person preserves wealth because they understand that once they start bringing their income in, they have to diversify among what I call 4 money houses. Right. One is the stock market. Right. Most people invest in the stock market. One is real estate. They own multiple properties. Insurance is in there, and then private business. All right. So I don't care if we're talking LeBron James, Oprah Winfrey, Donald Trump, whoever, and they all make money different ways. I guarantee they all invest in the stock market. Donald Trump, LeBron James, Oprah Winfrey, Eddie Murphy. Right. Probably got some stocks. Got a portfolio. Right. They all got insurance, bunches of it, millions of it. right? They all got property and real estate, and they all own business. Even LeBron as an athlete has businesses. He got charter schools, all kind of stuff, right or wrong. Okay, and so they understand I can diversify myself in all those areas to make sure I maintain wealth long term. So you can get rich in one of those areas. You can get rich in the stock market.
Yeah.
You can get rich in real estate. You can get rich in business. But if the market shifts the wrong way when you're not prepared, you can find yourself starting over. Right? All your wealth in real estate in 08, 09, a lot of those guys had to start over, a lot of real estate investors. Right now, we're in COVID season. If all of your wealth was in your small business, it's a lot of small business ain't open no more. Right? The economy shifted when you wasn't ready. But diversification is how you maintain long-term wealth. Even if my business is down, I still got my stock portfolio going. I got all these other things. So it kind of shelters me a little bit better than if I had all my eggs in one basket. Right. So we focus on those areas. Now, out of those 4 areas, those are all transferable assets when I pass. See, when I pass away, I can leave my 401k or my IRA or my annuity to my children as beneficiaries. I can leave my property to my children. I can leave my business. But all those things also come with taxes and expenses, right? Okay. They don't just get all million in my retirement totally scot-free. Uncle Sam gonna want his cut. Right. The life insurance policy, number one, is the most inexpensive of those transferable assets, right? A single person with kids could buy a decent, $250,000, $300,000 life insurance for $40, $50 a month. Married couple, $75 to $100. That is way more affordable than a business, than $1 million 401k, right? Than property. Okay, so it's the least expensive of all those transfer assets, but it's also the one that goes to the next generation tax free.
That's right.
They get all the million. That makes sense. And so out of those 4 money houses of the wealth, I always tell my clients, this one here you start first because it's the cheapest. All right, and it goes tax free. Even your creditors cannot file a claim against your life insurance policy. Right. Okay. So it goes tax free. They may need that tax free income to help them pay the tax on that 401k they finna split up 3 ways. They may need that tax free life insurance to pay the property tax, right? Or a mortgage if the house still has a mortgage on it. So many people lose property because the family passes on, leave 3 kids a house or some land, and they fighting over who's gonna pay the bills, and they end up losing it to foreclosure, right? Right? Or small business. Right, I can pass my small business to my family, but if I was the head of the business, all the employees depend on me for payroll. My kids inherit the business. Now they're saying, "Well, hey, how are we gonna pay these people? We ain't been open since Daddy died." Right, so they may need that life insurance policy to buy time to where they can just sell the business, right, or hire somebody to come in and replace me as a CEO. Hopefully, they learn to run the business so they can take over. Okay, but if not, you still got to have money. That's why stuff like Key Man Insurance is very important. Right, because it gives a business owner or that spouse time, right, and resources to continue, right. And so those are some of the things that we kind of talk about. We look at the totals. That's why in my bio we talk about the concierge service. Stop shop, right. So we're not a one-trick pony where we're just talking life insurance or health insurance. We talking about all of it,
right.
So
one-trick pony.
One-trick pony, right. Most financial professionals, they either do like life insurance or health, or they're a real estate agent, or they're a mortgage broker, or I'm an investment advisor at Charles Schwab. No, we do it all because you got to have all those moving elements in place to have a solid financial foundation, right? Everybody has to have a strong financial house. And my question to my clients is, in the Bible, we talked about Noah. Noah kept talking about, hey, the storm gonna come now. The storm is coming. I'm trying to tell you, the storm is coming. And everybody thought Noah was crazy until it started sprinkling a little bit. Then it started raining. Then the water started rising. They were like, the old boy was right. He was on to something, right or wrong. Okay. Well, guess what? The storm is still coming, and it's coming to your doorstep. But is your house strong enough to withstand the storm? See, that's going to hit everybody, right? They say half American households end up in bankruptcy. We all going to go through some type of financial problem, whether the bankruptcy happened because a spouse passed, or maybe ours got cut, or we got laid off. It's going to happen. But do you have financial reserves? Is your emergency fund big enough to withstand you being laid off for 3 months? Because it could happen. Does that make sense? Retirement is going to happen, or retirement age is going to happen. It's just a matter of will you have money or will you not have money, right? Our kids are going to at some point have a decision when they turn 18. Do I go to college or some type of formal trade to be able to make enough income to move out of my parents' house? Will you be prepared when that time comes? Okay, so you're only as good financially and as solid as your financial house. And so one of the things we focus on is putting the building blocks in place, right? We all seen a new house being built from the ground up. Start with the foundation, right? That's all your insurances. Those are things that protect your income. Well, in retrospect to health insurance, if you got sick, you ain't getting $100,000 hospital bill, right? Right. The insurance company gonna take most of that risk. Well, auto insurance is the same way. If I wreck my car, I hit somebody, I pay that $500 deductible. Allstate got it right from there, right? Okay. If I don't have the right coverage, I could get sued and have to pay the difference, right? Okay. Life insurance, if I pass away, it's designed to protect income because all of our houses operate off of income.
Right.
Unfortunately, when we pass away, the job does not continue to keep sending checks to the house just because we made employee a month one time. It's cut off after that last paycheck, and then somebody else is sitting in your cubicle.
Right.
So mom and the kids are like, okay, well, income got cut off. How are we finna pay the mortgage next month? How are we gonna pay April 1st rent? And see, that's what the life insurance is for. You're buying money. And you have money, right? See, if April had $1 million saved right now, she might not need life insurance because if she passes on, her family, her kids are going to inherit the $1 million. Okay, but if she only has $20,000 in the 401k, that's not going to go that far. All right. You know, after a couple months, they're looking for money. All right. So what I always tell my clients, if you don't have enough liquid assets for them to inherit, your life insurance policy is that tax-free liquid asset for them to inherit. And you're financing it for $50 a month. Right. That's what you're doing. Okay? You're financing it from the insurance company. Say, hey, if I die, give my family $500,000. And what that represents is if I make $50,000, that's at least 10 years of my salary. That's what it is. And I can finance it for $50 a month. They can have financial security. That's what life insurance is. Right. At the end of the day. So those are some of the conversations we have. We just have to make it so simple. And I don't use a lot of fancy terms, jargon, all that kind of stuff. Because what happens if you talk above people's pay grade,
they'll stop listening.
Yeah.
You know what, Dominique? Now you gave me a lot of great points. But you know what? We got to really pray over this and pray about it. Right. Okay. You got to pray. That means they didn't understand. All it means when they got to pray about it, you was talking above their pay grade.
Not so necessarily, because
you got to bring it down. You got to bring it.
I'll take it to Jesus.
That makes sense. You have to bring it down sometimes to where they really understand. That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
So go ahead, April.
No, I was just saying sometimes you have to pray about something because you may really, God can talk to you about the fact that you need to start making some better decisions on your finances. I know we talked about budget, but you talked about budgets again here.
You know what I tell them?
Maybe some things that you have that you need to cut out. You know
what I tell them, April?
Praying about it, God can show you some areas that
you know what I tell them, April? I say you already prayed about it. That's how we met.
That's why you're here. Exactly.
That's why I'm here. That's why we ain't talking about mistakes. Does that make sense? Right. And if you need to pray about it, let's pray right now. Right. Close your eyes. Let's pray. Dear Father God, I hope she makes the right decision.
I agree.
Right.
I agree.
Let's go ahead and pray.
Look, I want our viewers and our listeners to understand that when I say this, that we still want you guys.
I'm just messing with you. I'm just
valuable information. But these two gentlemen that are at the bottom of your screen are salesmen as well. And so, like,
well, my thing is because you already know, like I love this stuff, and the thing about it is, it's so. I don't want to say simple because it's when people don't understand it, then they want to shy away from it and make it seem like it's like, oh my God, so unattainable. And it's really not. Once you sit down and you realize that it's actually wise, then it's not such a big deal.
It's wisdom. It's wisdom in everything y'all saying.
Right.
I agree.
All she's saying is we do still need to pray about it.
Well,
all things, right?
Another thing too. I think once you have an opportunity to go through that experience, once you go have an opportunity to go through that, see somebody like you guys, Dominique and April, y'all have lived through that experience. So you don't know, but somebody who hasn't, it's a little hard decision for them, right? Somebody who's gone through the experience say, you know what, whether dad had his financials in order or whether he didn't. Somebody who lived through the experience of somebody not having their finances in order is going to say, you know what, I don't want to make the same mistake for my kids. Does that make sense?
Right.
It's so easy for them, okay? But for somebody who, like, my parents are still here. Unfortunately, I'm in the industry, so I see other people's testimonies. So it lets me know, hey, I don't want that happen to me or my family, right? So those are my checks. You understand what I'm saying? But absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I think that we have made a lot of wonderful points. Like you have really broke down that insurance thing for us. Like saying some of the things that you said, like, first of all, the insurance is one of the least most expensive transferable asset. You
Absolutely.
stated that creditors and Uncle Sam will not be taxing our insurance policy money, you
Let's
know, and
change the rules, right? You gotta look up 2021 guidelines, right? Okay.
oh, well, definitely look up the rules. Well, that's why we talk to professionals who do know the rules, right? So we can make sure. But you gave us a lot of insight. And so, as we normally do in our Totally Naked way, as we come to the end of our session, we love to leave our viewing audience with some takeaways that they can actually do at home to help them with their estate planning. So, to kick this off, let's get it started with.
We're going to plan it now. Like, I think that if we can say that the consensus across the board today is that when it comes to the end of life planning, we're going to be like King Joffrey. Let's get this party started. Like, I know what it is that I want. I know and understand that I have to die. And I want to make sure that I have done all of my due diligence. I am prepared for that, my exit out. And my exit out, I have talked to the right people in my family. All of my beneficiaries know that they are the beneficiaries. I've thought through, the fact that, okay, these are things that like I want my funeral to be, I want to be cremated, or I want to have a traditional burial, where I have a casket and things like that. So you're thinking about your the end of life well before you have a living will. Dominique mentioned those things. And so I think that when we're talking about some of these end of life conversations, like, yes, you may be a millennial, you may be in your 30s, you may be in your 40s, but it is not too late to start having those conversations. Because one, we did understand that through COVID that, just because we're here today doesn't mean we're going to be here tomorrow. But not only that mama, daddy, myself, we all have an expiration date, and we want to be as prepared as we can be for when that expiration happens. And so when we can be able to leave a legacy behind, our family members are going to be grateful, because it's a gift to be able to leave them with something where they don't have to necessarily have the stress, but they have the blessing that you leave behind instead.
Right.
Nice. Research different life insurance policies. So the thing is with those, number one, you need to make sure you choose a life insurance policy that's good for you and your situation. Not one is, oh my God, so much better than another one. It depends on where you are in your life and the things that you want to cover. But before that, you definitely need to understand your entire financial picture. I know that Marlon was talking about knowing what your liabilities and assets are. You need to make sure that you have enough insurance to cover your liabilities, whether they be your mortgage or cars or your loans, credit cards, whatever you have to pay back, and then make sure that you insure those assets that you have, so that people who you leave them to are in a better place for it.
Absolutely.
In the Google society, we're in the YouTube environment, we're in the DIY, do-it-yourself, DIY, do-it-yourself environment. One thing I always tell people is this here. It's always wise to have professional counsel. We have doctors for a reason. We have attorneys for a reason. We have licensed plumbers, electricians for a reason, right? As much as I know how to cut my own grass, sometimes I just like to come home and have my grass cut, right? Okay. I got clippers in my house, but my barber, my professional barber, does a lot nicer job on my hairline than I can do, right? Okay. And so talk to a licensed professional. Don't be intimidated. I live in Jacksonville. I don't know where you guys are. I'm in Jacksonville, Florida. In the area of Jacksonville, we got a city called Ponte Vedra, Florida. There are more financial planning offices in Ponte Vedra on every corner per square mile than it is in the whole city of Jacksonville.
Wow.
They're like gas stations.
Wow.
Charles Schwab, this guy, Dean Whitwer, whoever, right? XYZ financial advisors. Why does this particular community feel the need or the importance of talking to professionals?
Because it's the wealthiest.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yep. And then we got, your whole, I don't see no financial planning offices on the north side. They never. What, on 103rd? Right? Okay. You don't see it. We see credit unions, right? Right. We see banks, but not people, wealth builders. That makes sense.
Right.
And so if the wealthy understand that for me to keep my wealth long term, generation after generation, I may need to talk to a professional to help me structure some things. I don't have to be a know-it-all, right? I can hire somebody to do that. Then middle income, right, or high upper in middle, they need to do the same thing, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
they're professionals for a reason, right? As though I love to see things on YouTube, like doctors doing open heart surgeries. I'm not trying to figure out how to do my own. Right, right. I want to let them do it. Right, okay. And so don't be intimidated. We don't charge a fee for consultation for what we do. Matter of fact, we have weekly wealth builder webinars that talk about different things, whether it's home buyer consultations, investment consultations, understanding your corporate retirement, all kind of things. People can come in and learn, and then they can opt in to get professional help. So we like real estate. You know, when you're talking to real estate agents as a buyer, you don't pay a real estate agent a commission. The seller pays a commission. You basically get free real estate service, right? So many buyers are so intimidated to talk to realtors. I'm like, that's the best thing as a buyer.
Right.
You get free help. All right. And so we structure our situation the same, where we're paid from the sellers, right? We contract to so many different companies and financial firms and brokerage houses and all those different things. We get paid the commission. No different if I took Dominique to DR Horton to buy a house, she's not paying me my commission to help her. DR Horton is saying, hey, thanks for bringing us a buyer. Here's your commission. All right. So in essence, you get free help. And so don't be intimidated by that. I know some advisors have fee for service. But you know, we don't structure ours that way, and we'll help you in all aspects. I know today we talked about life insurance, but we're a full service concierge, right? Okay. And our team, we have teams of people licensed in all aspects of the game: mortgage, real estate, investment, insurance, health insurance, whatever. And you know, any question you have, and no, not too big or too small, you can always call us. You want to opt into one of our webinars. I'm pretty sure, you know, the facilitators of today's webcast will provide you guys with all the information on how to follow us on social media and YouTube and all that kind of stuff. Now, I'm not a great techie person. I'm kind of learning. But I had somebody, one of my business partners in the past, man, you need to make videos, right? Okay. And so we started making videos, and I was uncomfortable in the beginning because sometimes I stutter a little bit, I have a small speech impediment. But one thing I do know is the more you can be yourself, the more authentic you are, right? You know, that's what people like. They like somebody who will keep it real. Y'all heard that? Keep it real, right? And so that when you listen to us or you hear what it's gonna be real, right? So we don't. I'm not a very polished person. At the end of the day, you know, I'll walk around in some gym outfits, right? You know, sneakers and all that, you know, sweatpants, and that's me, right? So, but we're gonna keep it real with you. We're ourselves. We're not overly polished, you know, because we want to be relatable where people can relate, you know. And you know, at the end of the day, we're all people, all right. We all just have different expertise and areas of education, right? And we share that stuff with each other. You know, all you guys bring something different to the table, you know. But yeah, don't be afraid to talk to a professional.
Yeah, so
absolutely.
How can they reach you? I know that we'll put it in there, but like, what's the name of your company again?
All right, Legacy Builder 904 Consulting on Facebook. We're at Legacy Builders with an S on the end, Legacy Builders, and in parentheses is M, which is my first initial, last name Conaway. So Legacy Builders in parentheses M Conaway, and then and we'll have make sure we provide the link for that. Y'all can click on that. And on Instagram, if you're an Instagrammer, we're at Team Legacy Builder 904 on Instagram. YouTube, I don't know the page, but I think on my email I put a few YouTube links in there, so you can click on it and share. I'll make sure I go in there and customize the name. Probably gonna be Legacy Builder 904 or something like that, where people can find it. But
awesome, that's awesome. So listen, no excuse as to why we cannot have what I'm getting ready to say, the conversation. Do it afraid, people. Do it afraid. And have the conversation. Don't allow our fears of our own mortality or our fears or the pain or grief or, you know, future grief that we may feel that we're going to have for our loved ones to prohibit us from having the very important conversations that we need to have. As we mentioned, letting them know what you desire, letting them know where different information can be found in your home, whether it's with a lawyer or in a safe deposit box or in a home safe or something of that nature. Just making sure that the people, the key players that is going to be in your estate planning are aware of what's going on, and that you are all on the same page.
Right.
We love you guys to life. This conversation was not an easy conversation, but it was definitely a necessary conversation. If you know someone that could benefit from this information, like we always say, please
share.
like, share, and drop it in their DM. Send them the link and share the information. We love you to life. If you're here, please drop something in the comments. Let us know you're here and where you're from. And if you're catching this on the replay, just say replay. We love you all. And until next time, bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you, Marlon.
All right.